Good evening and welcome to the FFS podcast. I'm your host, Praddy, once again, and welcome to yet another episode of the Dressing Room series. This is episode number 5, and continuing with our line of guests who've joined us in for the past 4 episodes, we go wind the clock way back to season 1. Now, for those of you who are joining us here or who are listening or watching us for the first time, the Dressing Room series is something that I began, I suppose, last year, but kind of continuing it this year predominantly. And in this series, we interview guests of the podcast, previous guests who have been with us since season 1, and we talk to them about everything but football, right? So we know what their favorite clubs are, we know who their favorite players are, all of that. But this podcast, or this series rather, is to get to know a little bit more about them from a personal side. For me to get to know about my guests who I interview and I talk to on a regular basis, to get to know them a little better. And I suppose for the audience, this series works in a way that you might find yourself having a lot more in common with our guests than you think you do. So, for example, another Bayern fan watching this, right? Alankrith over here supports Bayern Munich, but you may not know that he has the same likes or dislikes as you have. So you probably have that much more in common with our guests here. So just to get to know about them. So yeah, like I said, there's nothing to do with the world of football here. We're going to be talking about everything else in our lives, right? So I did sort of spoil it because as to who our guest is here, but Alankrith, goes way back, I think, to season 1, and I'm glad that we could have him on here for this particular series in season 1 of the Dressing Room series. Alankrith, before we get to talking about your life and our lives and all of that, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, outside of football, I think apart from being a Bayern fan, I'm from Nagpur, but I've been raised in Chennai. So, most of my life lived in Chennai. Then moved to Pune for undergrad. I did undergrad in games. So then I moved to the UK for a master's. Came back to India, worked for a few years. Now I'm back to the UK. So
Awesome.
Interesting journey.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so we will expand on all of this during the course of our podcast, right? Or this particular series. Now, this particular episode rather. So let's talk about what I normally start off, or how I normally start off this series, or this every episode that I've done. And I felt that now that I've done it for the past 4 people, I think this is going to be the format now. I think the first question that I have for you is is discussing how we met, right? So a lot of people in the past, over the past 4 episodes, we've had 2 people who I knew from school and 2 people who I've known from the podcast primarily, right? So do you recall how we got in touch with each other? I'm not too sure.
I think it was Twitter. It was you were looking for a guest from Bayern Munich.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think it was Shaz or Rogers who put me through.
Okay. Yeah, possibly. Yeah. And this was back in season 1, if I'm not mistaken, right? This was way back.
2020, I think. Was that season 1 or season 2?
Yeah, 2029. I'm guessing if it's early 2020, then it's season 1. I'm pretty sure we did have you on. I remember the thumbnails being quite basic, so I do remember.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks for confirming that. But okay, fair enough. Yeah, I obviously do know you from Twitter. I mean, we got to know each other from Twitter at the start. It's not like we knew each other before that. And I suppose, it probably was either Ojas who probably introduced us, because at that point, 2019 October or something, I think I joined Twitter for the first time, because I'd been told, like, let's go to Twitter and you'll find people on there. Otherwise, I'd have been stuck with people from my school. Honestly, this podcast would have just been people from my school talking about football, which would have been a different podcast. Probably would have been the same. But yeah, I'm glad that We got, and so, I don't know if you know this, but you're the only person that I've come to know through the podcast that I've actually met in real life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No one else from Bangalore when you made the trips down?
No. Yeah. To be fair, no one else at that
Wow.
point. Yeah. So you are the only one who I've known from the from Twitter, or I've known you from the because of the podcast. You're the only person who I've met in real life, and that's weird because you don't even live in Bangalore. You live in Chennai. So
I was there like that week randomly, and we met.
Yeah. Oh, that was a fun thing though.
Yeah.
Meet. Yeah. That was it. Yeah, Big Brewski, right?
Big Brewski. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice.
Nice place.
So let's talk about your interests other than football. So apart from the world of football, what are you into? Like whether it be sports or any other sort of hobbies or interests that you have.
I think off the top of my head, I really like stories. So usually I end up watching a lot of movies or sometimes reading books.
Sometimes. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes reading books. So that's pretty interesting. I also like to travel quite a bit. So I've been to 4 countries so far.
Okay.
Yeah, not a big list, but slowly
no, I mean it's the intent that you need to have rather than how many. It's not everyone is lucky to have been to so many countries, but as long as you like traveling, then that's
it's
good
fun
enough.
And genuinely enjoy traveling, especially backpacking. I think gives me a lot more like flexibility to do what I want. So that's pretty enjoyable. I'd say I used to have a travel blog.
Oh.
I use COVID as an excuse not to write on it, but yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
The thing with writing though is that I mean it takes a little bit of time to do that, and you need to have that sort of mindset to sit down and have to write words. Like you had a travel blog. I have or / had a restaurant review blog. I think I've spoken to you about maybe I didn't mention it.
I think we spoke about like Zomato reviews and other reviews.
Yeah, so something similar like that. So I'd post it on Zomato, but I'd have my own. I had my own website that I'd used to review and all of that. But like after a while, it became like, oh my god, I have to sit down and I have to think of words to put down.
Yeah.
And when you're doing this, like we're doing right now, and on the podcast where I'm talking about football, when I'm just talking, it's easy. I don't have to like
much more easier.
Yeah, even if I'm blabbering something, I can still blab away, right?
Yeah,
I don't have to care. I don't care that my grammar is wrong. I don't care that I'm framing sentences. I've got like long pauses in between. When I'm writing, I'd be like, I don't know if you had this, but I would write one paragraph. Then when I'm writing the second one, I'll be like, oh no, the first one's not too great. I will.
Yeah. It happens all the time. No. So I started out writing blogs first for like sports blogs. So outside of the boot, that was my first ever experience writing for them. And yeah, every time I would write, I'd like write something like, oh no, this is not nice. Like restart. So that was like 3, 4, 5 times. So yeah, what would have been like a 30-minute exercise ended up becoming like 2-3 hours long. And back then I was more than happy to do it. But then after a point, I think I was just like, okay, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Have you thought of doing a travel podcast?
I have, but I need to start traveling again to do that.
That's true.
So that's the next stage.
Yeah, because like you, I love to travel as well. Like going to see different places and countries. Okay. The difference I think between what you said and I said, what I like is that I'm not a huge backpacking person.
Right.
Okay. I love to go see country. Like in my like visits, I love to do not the main tourist thing. I love to do any sort of thing, right? Like outbeat, all of that. That's all fine. But I just can't do backpacking. Like if you tell me like go and stay in like a hostel, I'll be like, oh shit, no.
But hostels are where you get like the most amazing stories.
I know, but I just can't. I don't know if it's because I have to share a restroom or a washroom with people, and that's the thing. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I'm also not the sort of person, like, I'm not like an extrovert or something. So for me to go and meet
Right.
tons of
Yeah.
people, this is the most extroverted thing that I'm doing right now. Right?
Yeah, but I never imagined you not being an extrovert because you connect quite a lot on the podcasts.
I do. And you have no idea how much I've had to change because of that. Twitter has actually brought out that side in me where I've had to talk to people and ask this. Otherwise, like, you tell me right now, I know somebody, go reach out to that person. A few years ago, I'd be like, aren't you just available? If you're not, I'll just find another date when you're available. Something like that. Right now, I'm like, okay, like, take it. I mean, what's the worst thing they can say? They'll say they're not interested. Okay, fine, fair enough. So yeah, I'm not that sort of person. I if you do like group travel and all of that, where, so for example, like when I go for vacation to different countries, there are obviously these, like, I book certain trips, right? Because you can't obviously go and see unless it's a group trip or whatever. So there are people in that group trip, people you've never met. So then you get to chat and small talk.
That's true.
That's fine. And yeah, I've had like people, generally older people though, like we used to connect via email. So like at that point, like when I went to Budapest and all that, so you just connect that way. But I'm sure you're different to that. I'm sure you love the hostel life. What's the most, or the weirdest, most standout story we've heard from your travel?
So there was this one guy who's from Switzerland, and he basically was like, what, 28, 29 that time when I met him. This was like 3 years back. Yeah, so I guess he's like mid-30s now. I have no idea if he's still doing this, but when he came to Amritsar, that's where I met him. At the hostel, he was like, I'm here to basically become a monk. So,
wow.
Yeah, he used to work at one of the big banks, and
they all tend to then live the
like, so he said he's seen the corporate life and he's done with that. He's made money. He's done with it. Now he wants to. He's basically put his money in the bank, saying like, I don't want it for now. So he walked all the way from Switzerland. Like, he walked from Switzerland. Yeah. So the guy walked from Switzerland via Turkey, and at some point in Turkey, he needed to cross via Syria, or like the Syrian border. So that dude, when he was crossing, he basically had like a, I don't know what's a wheelbarrow, like he was just dragging one. Yeah, he was dragging one along, which had his backpack. So these guys on the check post on the border thought like, this dude's from and they started like asking like, wait, and like, so then he tried to say like he's going to take his passport out to show, and they shot warning shots. Then he's like, okay, yeah. So he's like, okay, you come down and check me yourself. So then the guards came and they found out he's Swiss, and then they pissed their pants because he's Swiss and they can't do it.
Yeah. Oh shit. That is some story though.
Yeah, and this wasn't even the crazy part. So then he basically got taken to like the VIP lounge of the military at the Turkish military. They like really pleaded like, please don't report this to your embassy. Yeah, and then he walked through Iran, then went to Pakistan, and in Pakistan they did not believe a Swiss man basically wanted to cross through these countries by foot to enter India.
Yeah,
like they could not believe it.
First of all, to enter India via Pakistan, be like, oh, brave.
Pakistan, yeah. I mean, like, who is this guy? And so they had like border patrol, like the Pakistan Rangers. They offered to drop him at the border.
Wow!
And simply because he's Swiss, they offered to drop him at the border because they can't have a Swiss national dying on their roads. So, but then this dude was like, no, I will walk it.
Yeah.
So he was walking, and these guys came in their jeep at snail's pace behind him all the way to the border. And he
I
crossed
can
through
imagine.
Wagah, and he came to India. And then now he's in Amritsar. And he's like, yeah. So
Oh,
in a week he was going to go to Dharamshala where
yeah.
the monk was. And I don't know if he's still a monk or if he's like, okay, the monk's life's not for me, and he went back to his Ferrari and
Back to
no
corporate. Yeah,
idea.
exactly.
Yeah.
I've always heard, like, I've seen stories and I've heard stories of, people doing the most ridiculous journeys, right? Whether it
Mm,
be only by walking, and whether it be, they take like some boat or something, some
yeah,
handmade boat they would take and ferry across the Atlantic. And I'm like sitting as like, there's no way I'd be able to
I've
walk.
seen that. I've seen a YouTube video. This
Yeah.
is like a month ago. Three women. They did this for
Mhm.
charity. They rowed a kayak
Yeah.
across the Atlantic from England
Wow.
all the way to Jamaica. I think they literally rowed the boat, and it was like a 60-day journey on a kayak. And they took shifts to sleep and row and eat and whatnot.
Listen, like 60 days, I'm pretty sure by second day I'll be like,
Yeah,
like no way. And I'm given my luck, I'm sure on the fifth day or something, there'll be like this massive storm that's happening, and I'll be like breaking my.
the video itself on the vlog basically showed them in like almost 60% of the video was in stormy waters. I'm like, how are these people kayaking?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I suppose the mentality or the balls on them to do
Oof.
something like that is just
Yeah,
insane. But I can't imagine myself walking all the way. Like, I have to think of, like, it's easy, I suppose, for nations where the passport counts for a lot. Like,
yeah.
imagine taking an Indian passport, walking around. I want to enter this country. Get lost.
Kerala.
Where is the damn visa?
Yeah,
Yes, I'll have to probably spend 1 year getting all of the visas I need.
visas.
Yeah, and
And
then make the journey.
by the
So
time you get half the visas, the other half would expire. So you
exactly,
have
yeah.
to go back get those visas.
Like, I get all my visa and then I go there. It's like, oh, sorry, sir, your passport's less than 6 months valid. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
shit, leave it.
shit.
I just go back to my Ferrari. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. So in terms of traveling, you said you've been to 4 countries. So which are the 4 countries that you've been to?
So really
Not
easy
count,
one.
not counting the ones that you've lived in. So you've
All
lived in the
right,
UK and you've lived in. Okay, I'll say England. You've lived in, and you've lived in. I wouldn't count the
Scotland.
whole UK. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
Scotland. You've lived.
so England
Yeah.
and Scotland. Yeah, so that's
England,
one.
Scotland, India.
Right. Okay. So then I've been to America.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Spain,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, I've been to New Zealand, and I was in Australia for one day simply because Singapore Airlines fucked up.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, okay, America. When the US did you go?
Mostly East Coast. I mean, I went to LA.
Okay.
I
Okay.
landed in LA, and then most of our relatives were on the East Coast, so we did like
Ah,
a East Coast marathon.
you're also one of those people who have relatives. I have like
Yeah,
probably if I have to go to the US, I have to do the full of US because I pretty much have relatives in East,
yeah.
West, Mid.
Actually, we had some relatives in Texas who we couldn't meet, and they were really mad that we didn't meet them.
Don't piss off the Texans.
Yeah, I only had
Uh,
a month off.
fair enough.
Yeah,
All right, Spain. Where all did you go to?
Barcelona and Valencia. So that's why I have the band. Not, I don't support Barcelona, guys. No.
Fair enough. And
Yeah,
of course, I mean, as a Bayern fan, you'd be love. Okay, let's not talk about that.
yeah,
So it was gonna go into a deep conversation about football, and I don't want that to happen. New Zealand's a fun one.
Mhm.
How did that happen?
So my mom's doing a PhD in New Zealand.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, just before COVID, 2019 December, I decided to fly down and visit her. So I went to New Zealand for 15 days, mostly South Island. It's pretty good country, very pretty.
It looks pretty. Yeah, those are the areas like New Zealand and probably like South America. I'd love to visit, but
Yeah.
the problem is like the travel time is like, oh man.
Oh, it's crazy. Oh my God. I had to change like 4 flights to get to where my mom was. And the worst thing is, if you want the cheap tickets,
Yeah.
Singapore Airlines puts you, and that's the only airline that literally goes from India to New Zealand, or you have
Okay.
to go Air India from Delhi. So if you want like ease from your city, you have to take Singapore Airlines. So, and if you want like the cheaper tickets, you have to have like 7 hours transit or
Yeah, yeah,
1 hour
yeah.
transit. There is nothing in the middle, like no 3 hours, no 4 hours. It's either 7, 8, 9 or one.
Singapore airport is, I feel like one place I probably could have a good transit. Like even if it is a long
Yeah,
transit, I feel like I could nicely spend it. It
yeah.
looks. I've only been there as a kid, probably in like
Mhm.
early 2000s. But looking at it now, I feel like, oh,
Yeah, well,
probably.
it's a pretty cool place. Actually, the
Yeah.
time when I was coming back, I had 10 hours in Brisbane and 10 hours in Singapore. The 10 hours in Brisbane, I don't know how I spent it. It was
Yeah.
like that airport is just one building, there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, then but I somehow managed that. Then I was at Singapore for 10 hours, which they have like free sleeping pods and movie
Yeah.
theaters and game rooms and whatnot. So that was fine. Yeah.
I I think
Yeah.
the worst place that I've ever, like Delhi airport, not the one now, but what it used to be
Right.
before Indira Gandhi. It used to
Mm.
be like a prison cell, right? At one point, no, because the lounge used to be before the check-in, like
Yeah. Yeah.
before security, right? So
Yeah.
if you pass security, you can't come back and go to the lounge. So it was hell. And at one point, I had a flight, Emirates back to Dubai. It only got delayed by 2 hours. I almost cried because I was like, I can't stay in this. There's
In this
nothing
airport.
there. Luckily, I had my laptop there, so I was watching something.
Mhm.
But oh my god, I was almost in tears. Like this airport is like a. It's
Yeah.
like it's. I'm like I want to go out at least. I want to do something. The lounges also I can't go out because they won't let me out
Exactly.
past security back. So I'm like,
Mhm.
it was
You know, the
frustrating.
the most surprising thing that I had to witness in an airport was the first time I went to Pune. And
Huh?
Pune airports basically they're defense airports, so like they're
Yeah.
pretty much restricted by what they can do. And the first time I went there, it was empty. Like it was a peak hour flight and it was empty. The airport was empty. It was just our flight, and they got our bags on a tractor and then they put them down. It's like pick it up. I'm like
Oh.
what?
Yeah.
And then the next time I had to leave, I took a late night flight, and they don't have any restaurants at that airport.
Yeah.
Back in
Okay.
2013, no
Yeah.
restaurants. Then they opened up one lounge, and then they opened up one stall which sold like Lace chips. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but now
I think.
now it's a little bit. The most funniest thing about the Pune airport is they have that air bridge
Mhm.
which you use, go down,
Go down. Yeah.
reach the
Exactly.
road, and then you
And then you
walk to
walk.
your flight.
Yeah, I think Pune airport was the first time I also realized that, whoa, this airport you can actually walk
Yeah.
to the airport. Um, and I think I did this in 2011. The NH7 was there at that point, so I was like, okay,
Yeah.
first time I made it to Pune. I think the last time I've been to in Pune was 2013 again. So, but
Mm,
2011 from Delhi, I went to Pune, and yeah, that was
mm,
the first time I was like, whoa, I'm able to walk down without anything happening. Like, okay, great.
yeah.
Um, all right. So, I mean, we've spoken about the places that you've been to. 5 places that you wish you could go to. Your dream
Mm,
destination. Your 5 dream.
interesting. Okay, I mean the first one's very easy. I definitely want to go to Germany.
Fair
So
enough.
yeah, it's very easy. Second one would probably be Portugal, because like I've
So
always
good.
wanted to go there.
So good.
Especially the beaches and the food. So
Yeah.
very interested to go to Portugal. Third, I want to go to either Argentina or Uruguay in the South America or Peru.
Yeah.
It's one of these three countries. I want to go to Mexico for sure. And this last one's quite hard. Maybe South Africa.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good countries. I've been to 4 of the 5. I don't think I haven't been to Argentina, that South American part.
Right.
Okay, maybe Mexico. Yeah, Mexico also have been. So maybe 3 out of 5. I think I've counted, unless I don't know what. So Germany I've been to.
Mm.
Portugal I've been. Or Portugal, you have to go. Like, it is Porto. I think is joint top favorite city of mine that I've been to.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, those two, and which was the other one that you said, the South Americans I haven't been, and Central American I
Yeah.
haven't been to, and South Africa I've been to.
South Africa.
Yeah, I've been to, but I've only been to Johannesburg and the safari side.
Right.
I haven't done Cape Town and Durban yet.
Right. Okay.
My folks have done. I haven't done. I've
Mm.
been twice to Joburg. Once I went for 2003 Cricket World Cup final.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
You
I
actually
was
saw that game live.
I was 10 years old and from Dubai. So my uncle did like he had his ad agency, and
Mhm.
he did some ads for the cricket team or something.
Oh,
So
right.
for LG, I think. So LG gave him tickets. The
Mhm.
company got a lot of tickets, and then I took a flight from uh from UAE, from Dubai to Johannesburg alone.
Nice.
And because I was younger than 13, I become a minor, right?
Yeah.
And so they then Emirates takes good care of you.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this was an old Emirates, so it didn't
Yeah.
have like the insane entertainment system that it has now and all that. But it had still pretty good at that point of time.
Yeah.
So while going to South Africa, I was in economy, and then probably midway or nearly 3/4, the air
Mhm.
hostess comes like, "Would you like? Please follow me," and she escorts me to first class. Like, yes. And
Nice.
then coming back, I sat down in economy. I was all like
Mhm.
ready. I sat down in economy. She comes back, she's like, "Please follow me." Takes me to business class. Like, yes, full 7.5 hour journey. I was
Nice.
like, yeah. Uh, that was the longest solo flight that I probably have still done. I don't think I've done.
That's
Oh no,
pretty cool actually for
yeah.
being 10 and doing a solo flight to Johannesburg. That's very cool.
Yeah. But that's again those countries. I really want to do South America, Latin America side. But yeah, it's just the flying time is like you think twice. You think of other
Yeah.
places close by that are there. Like luckily, I probably think of I want to do probably like Japan. I mean that's also pretty far, but still
Yeah.
like places like that. All right, great. Now, we spoke a lot about this, but let's talk about what do you do when you are. So you were working before this. So once you were done with work, how do you spend your time post work, chilling out and all that? So what's your social life like, and what's your chill
Mm.
scene like?
So on a regular day, I usually hit the gym for an hour, and after that, depends. If it's close to the weekend, then we go out, like get some beers and food. If not, then I live alone, so I make my own dinner, and I live with friends, so we usually like split the jobs. So someone chops, someone cooks, someone cleans. So yeah, that was always fun. So
So what are you? What's your job
I
mean?
usually cook.
Cook,
It's like yeah, I
good
love
cook.
cooking. So
Yeah.
yeah, I always cook.
Ah,
Yeah.
nice. What's your go-to meal? That's
Interesting.
not pasta.
Right. Yeah, I think if it's Indian, if it's North Indian, I'd go for like chicken tikka masala with rice.
Hmm.
If it's South Indian, then a dosa.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
you can make good dosa. I can't. I've only just now learned. Like my first time making a dosa will always go bad, and then like around the third, fourth time is like when I actually get the circles right, and like
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah, but I think dosa was the first thing I started to cook. I was like 8.5 or 9 when I first made my dosa. Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Like I've always helped make the batter. I've never made the
Mhm.
actual dosa thing.
Yeah,
Like
I've
when I was a
made
kid.
batter like once, and that was in the UK last time. I had to use a
Oh,
hand grinder because
yeah,
I was a mix of the blender and the hand grinder. So that was interesting.
yeah.
Came out well
Nice.
though.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's nice. And favorite cuisine to
Mm,
cook,
I
I
think
suppose.
to cook, okay. Mm. Yeah, I would say Indian because I love cooking Indian food. But if it's just in general, then I think as of
Yeah,
now I'm on Mexican.
nice. Any
Yeah.
have you made anything Mexican?
Um, Recently we actually in my current flat, one of my
Mm.
flatmates is from Mexico.
Oh,
So
nice,
yeah,
nice.
he taught us how to make guacamole,
Yeah.
and we also made fajitas. So that was
Ah,
pretty cool.
yes.
Yeah,
I made that. I made that a couple of days ago for the family as well. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. It was
it was
good
good.
fun. We we
Yeah.
we all gathered, had some beer, fajitas, and guacamole. It
Oh, that
was
is a
good.
relief. That is nice. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, that sounds really really good. All right, so yeah, so let's talk about the gaming career that you've had.
right.
Okay,
So interestingly,
yeah, like why gaming development?
yeah. So I always used to play FIFA. That was I think that's the one game I've played the most.
Yeah,
But I won't say that's the only game I play. I used to play like even games with like choice based narrative stuff. So when I was like 16, and that's when I went to the US, one of my uncles, he's in academia, and he saw how interested I was in games. So he showed me how they use games for learning technologies nowadays,
yeah.
and that really like made me
Ignited
interested
a
in
spark.
yeah. So I tried. That's why I got into games. Try and use like game based learning and gamification. So not the entertainment side. I was never interested in that. I was like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, so and I was lucky enough to start working in a company that did exactly game based learning. So good 4.5 years there. And now I'm in the UK for the next part. I don't know what's next,
Phase.
but
The
yeah,
next phase. Yeah, but let's not go into what the future holds right now. But that's
yeah,
interesting because when you talk about gaming, like
mm,
a lot of people would think entertainment, like you'd be into making sports games or RPGs
mm,
or AAA games. All of that. That's like if you talk
yeah,
about games, everyone's focus are on those games. So
mm,
to do the more educational side, you would have to have someone who is sort of not pushed you but guided you or sort of like some inspired you to go to that section because
yeah.
it's not everyone's cup of tea when you're going
Definitely
into the
not.
gaming.
Definitely not. Like, because even in my class, I think there was just me, and then there was another guy. He himself wasn't too much into it at the first bit. Then, but I think in our third year, we had to do a project on game-based learning, and the two of us were really into it. So, yeah, I think he's now diversified completely. He's doing something else. But yeah, that's what really like. I always wanted to be in game-based learning, and it's been fun. It's actually a lot more challenging because you can make things fun. That's the main challenge. But making learning things fun and not distracting in a way, that's a lot more difficult.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Like, I mean, I didn't think it was. I actually knew, like I mentioned to you, I thought you were game developing or something. But when you mentioned that, and then now when you mentioned about game education, it's very, very interesting. It's a very niche market, and
Yeah,
for you to find someone to work with, like as a career option immediately, I mean, it's great that there
yeah.
are.
I was extremely
Yeah,
lucky because when I finished my earlier degree, I
yeah.
applied to many companies in game-based learning, and everyone said you don't have experience. Go get experience. So yeah, okay.
You're supposed to give me experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fair
but
enough.
yes, and I went and did an internship in
Okay.
mobile game development. So that was like traditional entertainment games. But one of the companies I had applied to then reached out and said, "Okay, we have a vacancy, and we see you're doing something now, but are you available?" And then I'm like, "Yeah, my internship's about to end, and I'm in conversations to see what's next. Maybe they extend, or maybe I apply elsewhere." So then they say, "Okay, come on in." So for an interview, and then one thing led to another, and I got the job. So I think it was just like good timing.
It's always good time, right?
Always good
Everything has got to be a good time. But in India, especially, like it's interesting because India is obviously now developing technology and
time.
innovation and all of that. So on one hand, I'm not surprised that there are companies like that who do game-based learning, but or game-based education. But on the other hand, I am surprised because, like I mentioned, it's quite a niche market, and I didn't expect
Yeah.
India to have a company or to be
So
involved in something like that.
it's very cool actually. India has both sides to it. It has a B2B side and a B2C side. The B2C is like, for example, Byju's.
But I was just thinking the same. Yeah.
Yeah, they try to target school kids and institutions that do like GMAT prep or NEET prep and all that stuff. So that's mostly direct to consumer. They do of course sell sometimes directly to businesses as well, but their main model is mostly direct to consumers. I was more in B2B side, so I used to work not with school kids; they were not my target. The products that I used to work on were either for like medical professionals or
Okay.
healthcare, wellness, and
So,
lifestyle. It was very varied. Yeah, there was also like at one point there were like multiple projects that we do. One would be healthcare, one would be enterprise solutions, another would be sales training. So you'd be like doing three
interesting.
different things, and you'd be like, oh my god, so much information.
Yeah. For a second, I was like, "You're selling it to doctors? It's just like a it's like a video game version of Operation." Like,
It is
cleaning
actually, it
thousands.
is like we would get like 3D modules where it's basically to recertify these doctors in like to have
Yeah,
their ensure they have their like in-depth
but it's about
training,
the
yeah, like current methods and everything.
yeah.
So yeah, so we'll get like situations like someone's probably going to be delivering a baby, and now what do you do? So every action you do has an
Nice.
effect. So if you give the
That
wrong
sounds really
medication, it's a
interesting.
different effect. Yeah, so it's pretty cool that way. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about. Of course, you mentioned that you have predominantly lived your life in Chennai and have
Mm,
had stints away, especially in Scotland
yeah.
and in England. Uh, I want to know from a culture wise difference. How different is it? Did you face any like sort of culture shock when you did move for those 1 years, or were you sort of already at that stage where you had learned anyway, how to adapt and all that?
I mean, there was some amount of adaptability already because I did live alone in Pune like during my college like hostel life. So it wasn't the first time moving away from home, so that wasn't that difficult per se. Yeah, but there was some culture shocks. Like for example, this is the first time we all like people who I had met there. We all decided to go out, and then they were like, "Let's meet at 7:30 at the reception." And in India, it's 7:30
Yeah.
is 7:45, 8. So at 7:30, I have messages everybody down at the reception. I was ready. We just had to take the elevator and go down. I was ready, and they're like, "Yeah, we've been waiting for you for 10 minutes." I'm like, what? Like,
Oh,
so 7:30 is actually 7:15,
yeah,
not half
yeah,
seven.
yeah.
So that was that was quite the shock.
Most of the friends or the people who you hang out with now, are they uh, non-Indians, like, or what nationalities
So
are they, like,
the last
predominantly?
time in the cohort, it was not very Indian dominated. There was like a good mix. This time, when I'm here, there's a lot of Indians in my cohort, but I have a good mix. So there are like a few, like in my flatmates, like Mexican and British. There's one guy from China. So like we have a good mix. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, because I was wondering, because if it's predominantly Indian, then 7:30 could still mean 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So
but if
when we
it's
go out
not,
with
then
the Indians, when we go out, we all know 7:30 is 8. So
yeah.
we're fine. Our clocks are in tune.
Like when
We
I
have good
uh,
class.
when I was so when I was studying in the UK, I used to have so I didn't I had my like a studio flat thing. Um, so when
Mm,
I used to have friends over, and most of them were again Indians, right? So when I used to
mm,
have them over, and then we used to hang out in my place, I'd cook and all of that. So when we used to do that, I'd say like, come by 1, and I'm be cooking, and I'm like, okay,
mm,
I'm ready. I'll make sure that I'm ready by 1, and then they'd be like, come by 2, okay, and they'll come by 2, and I'm like, oh shit, the food's getting cold. Now what am I gonna do? And then
mm.
later, I suppose I started understanding that, because I would probably like, I would have been at 7:15 down, been
Yeah.
like, okay, 7:15, 7:20, I'd probably, yeah, I would have already gone down the elevator rather than text from this thing. I'm that sort of that Indian, I suppose. Yeah, I can understand. So I have understood from friends here also. It's like if I tell them 8 o'clock, they'll be like 8:30, 8:45, 9. I'll
Mhm.
be like, where are you guys? Like, and especially if you're cooking for people, it's so
Yeah,
annoying because you have to then time, like you can't have cold food. That's
yeah,
a no.
exactly. Yeah,
As when
no,
you're cooking,
that's not
right? You'd ideally want to have it cooked and served immediately. And even if
yeah,
it's not, maybe something that, so one option is you cook something like a curry where you can obviously heat it up
mm,
even later. But if you're cooking something that is meant to be served hot like that, it's just so annoying. And I'm like, screw it,
yeah,
you guys eat it cold. I don't care. I'm eating.
exactly. Yeah,
But what are the other sort of cultural differences that you've seen from Chennai to UK?
there's quite a few. I mean, Chennai is quite laid back.
Hmm.
UK is only laid back in the winter.
Yeah,
So yeah, but yeah, what those this one real big shock was supermarkets closed by 8.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was so annoyed, man. Like, you can't go get food after 8 if you
Most
bought
things,
groceries. That's it. Like, you're
yeah,
done.
most things except for restaurants closed by 8, right? And you're like, I'm
Yeah,
like, come on. The only thing that is open can't be like a
corner
Sainsbury.
shop.
Yeah, exactly. Like the fast food or the pubs are open. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
come on,
and
man.
even the pubs, they close their kitchen at 8:39. And I'm like,
Yeah,
why? Why? Who comes out this early to eat food?
yeah. Apparently, I mean, though
No,
I suppose they say the healthier lifestyle is to finish an early dinner, but for us, we're like, come on, man. Yeah,
I'd argue with that. Like, for example, the last time I was here, there were two girls from Northern Ireland who used to be in our flat, and they would eat dinner by 5:30, 6:30. And then these people are like, "You guys eat dinner at 9:30? That's so late." But then she would actually come at 9:30 and
After,
eat like a second dinner. And I'm like, might as well just eat at 8:30. You know, like why
yeah.
you do that?
I split the two. I have it at 7:30. It's good enough time for me
Yeah,
before I sleep and this thing. Yeah, but I can't do early even
yeah,
if it is because I will feel hungry. I know that.
exactly. Yeah,
Um, but that's why I suppose that's when they pile it on with the beer and the alcohol to fill up the.
I suppose. Yeah,
It is. Yeah, I think because even when was there, a lot of the time when I used to meet friends, I would have my dinner and then go out and meet friends. Even
mm,
if it was like 8:39, I would still make sure I ate my dinner and then go
right.
because like I prefer just having something filling before because I know with friends I'm going to just be drinking majority
Yeah,
of the time. So I don't want to have drinks on an empty stomach. And the
yeah,
food generally, I mean, you need to go to a good place. Like not every pub's going to be good food. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
it's just a quick meal and just think, all right, yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, I suppose that's about it. I'm trying to think of what else is there, but uh, yeah, I suppose that is. Oh, I forgot to ask you about the podcast that you've actually started,
Oh,
the
the
cricket
cricket
one.
podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was okay. I'm going to be really bad here. What was it called again?
it's called the Popping Crease.
The Popping Crease. Yes, of course. How's it going? Is you've not done it in a while, have you? Because I haven't
Yeah,
seen
so
any.
the last time I think we put out an episode was maybe in June.
Mhm.
And I think it was simply down to the fact that I got really busy from April till last month, this date last month. Um, April was when I started applying for MBA programs very late, as
It's
always.
fine. I think I applied for my MSc program in May. I think April, May,
Yeah,
same.
yeah,
It's
so I
fine.
finished applying and then I got in June. And from June on,
Oh,
it was a hectic job to like sort out the education loan, the visa, everything.
yeah,
Like that process really ate into my July and August, especially with August having so many holidays, on all the banks taking their own sweet time to reset from holidays. So like yeah, that was really annoying. But then somehow managed to get here on time. So yeah, now hopefully. once I get the routine set here, because it's just been like 3 weeks into the course. So hopefully in another 1 or 2 weeks, we can restart that again. But yeah, it's been fun so far. It's just my
Yeah,
cousin.
I mean, a good
Yeah.
time to start would be the World Cup anyway coming up.
Yeah, hopefully like the India-Pakistan game next week. So maybe something for that. Yeah. But yeah, so it's just my cousin, a friend from school, and sometimes Shaz comes on to give an
Okay,
Australian perspective. Yeah.
nice.
So yeah.
That so in terms of yours is a 1 year course, right?
Yeah, it's a 1 year
How
MBA.
how's it being going? How's it like going from working to studying? Because after 4 years, I found it like shit. Like that 1 year course
It's
becomes
hard.
a little
It is hard, but I'd say my university has done a very good job in helping us settle in. So, for instance, MBA students get free lunch,
oh
so we
okay,
don't have to end up spending time to cook every day to bring lunch to school. So we get
that's
free
nice.
lunch, yeah,
Okay, it's
every
a good
day.
lunch.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's decent enough lunch, like
Okay,
it's
fair enough.
sustenance. We
Who's
get
gonna
free
complain?
coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
get free coffee, and so that really saves a lot of time. Like you don't end up like making extra food or extra coffee. Like you have more free time. And I think last year the students gave some feedback saying Monday to Friday is too intensive and there's no actual time to work on the modules. So what they've done this time now is Monday to Thursday is when we have classes, and Fridays are holidays to work on modules.
Okay.
So we get to go meet our like clients or look at the reading material and all that on Friday. And what I've noticed so far is most of us take Saturdays as a off day. We don't do anything, and then again Sunday we do again preparation for Monday. So that one extra day is really helping us out, and I think that's what's really helped establish some sort of reading routine.
What's your schedule like in terms of on the weekdays? Have you got classes throughout, or are you able to create
Yeah,
your own schedule?
no, we got like classes throughout. So Mondays, so far this semester, Mondays just for marketing. So that's like a real life project as well, along with the course. So usually on Mondays they give us like theoretical knowledge, and then we in the second half, the last 1.5 hours is applying it to our project. And then on Tuesday we have two modules again, 9 to 4. Wednesday we have only one module, but second half is like soft skill development. So technically another full day, and then Thursday is two modules again.
Okay. But are these a lot more engaging, practical sort of
Yeah,
studying? Yeah, that's good.
there's a
I
lot.
mean, that's
There's
better
like
than theoretical.
definitely there's three live client projects that we get to do around the whole year. So
Wow. Okay.
that's pretty useful actually, because we're able to uh, actually use the knowledge that we're getting to a specific like real life problem. And like the clients are from various backgrounds, so you can never even predict like something would have worked for you in your background, but it would be so different for them in this industry. So you got to like learn that industry real quick. So it's pretty fun, pretty much fun so far.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. Definitely. Anything practical or experimental
Yeah,
is a lot more fun to do. And especially if I suppose I don't know if it's group wise, but with the group it becomes a lot more
yeah,
engaging, a
yeah,
lot more fun. But yeah, I think yeah, I wish we had more time because I would love to have
mm,
spent another hour speaking about traveling and all of that. But we can anyway catch up on WhatsApp. Anything, let's
yeah,
talk about it because
definitely.
yeah, that's something that is really interesting. I really love. And
Mm.
yeah, especially being in the UK, Europe becomes so much more accessible.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So yeah, so that does definitely yeah. When I was there, made full use of it. Not only UK but just Europe was so much fun to
yeah,
travel. But yeah, I guess that's all the time we have for this podcast. So thank you, Alankrith, for coming on to this podcast, on this series in particular, and sharing your stories with us. Like I said, it was really fun. I got to know a little more about you. I know we had the chat anyway in Bangalore, but it was really nice to speak to you again, get to know a lot more.
yeah.
the traveling thing really sounds fun. Plus, even the MBA thing sounds really interesting. All the best for that. Hopefully, it goes all
Yep,
well.
thank you. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
yeah, can't wait to host you on our regular podcast. We've got uh, the Champions League nights and all
Mm.
coming up soon. For you, it'll be easier this time. You don't have to sort of be awake in the middle of the night
That's
watching it.
been the biggest plus point of moving to the UK.
Unfortunately, I didn't want to bring that up, but that was the best part of it.
Yeah.
Having those timings there. But yeah, I can't wait to host you for all that. Hope we can chat up soon. But until then, thank you once again.
Definitely, yeah, it was great fun being on this section of the podcast too. It was nice knowing a lot more about your travels too. And yeah, thank you. Can't wait to be back on our actual football podcast.
Yeah, definitely. And to those of you who are either watching us or listening to us, I hope you've also enjoyed this. However long this conversation was, you got to know a little bit more about our guests as well on the podcast. You probably have more similarities than you thought you did, and let us know as well. We've had different conversations. We've spoken about travel, we've spoken about life in UK, we've spoken about the gaming industry. So if you have any opinion on any of that, please do let us know in the comments down below, or let us know either on Twitter or on Instagram. If you're watching this on YouTube, then you can hit the like button, comment down below, share with friends and family, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on the audio podcast, go to YouTube, watch us. I'm pretty sure if you don't want to see our faces and if you prefer a more audio format, perfect. Listen to it on any of the podcast platforms like Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, you name it, we're there. And yeah, get talking to us or get interacting with us on Instagram and Twitter. The links are all in the description down below. Follow us, and we'd love to get to know a little bit about you as well. First, we'll obviously have you on the football podcast, and then eventually we'll have you on this podcast where we get to know a lot more about you from a personal side. But I guess that's about it for episode number 5 of the Dressing Room series, season 1. I'm your host, Praddy, once again. You stay safe and good night.